The secret is learning to experience your desire as though it is already yours. You do not have to wait for your circumstances to change before you allow yourself to change. The transformation begins within you, and the outer world eventually reflects what you consistently accept within. You are not someone standing outside your own life, asking permission for the things you want. You are the one choosing the inner state from which you experience your life. Close your eyes and imagine from the position of someone who already knows, not someone desperately hoping. Step into the scene as though what you desire is already part of your experience. Feel the confidence of success, the warmth of genuine love, the calm security of abundance. If prosperity is what you desire, imagine the comfort and freedom that come with having more than enough. If love is what you seek, feel the closeness, affection, and peace of being deeply connected. You don't spend your day wondering whether tomorrow will arrive. You simply know it will. Give your desired future that same quiet certainty. What you experience outwardly is often influenced by the assumptions and beliefs you repeatedly carry inwardly. If you want the reflection to change, begin with the image you are holding within yourself. Live from the assumption that what you desire is already fulfilled. Speak from completion rather than desperation. Think, feel, and move through your day like someone who already possesses the state they have been seeking. Let your thoughts, your words, and your inner conversations agree with that assumption. You do not need to chase what you believe is already yours. Chasing keeps your attention fixed on the idea of separation. Instead, embody the feeling of possession. When you accept the state of already having, your perception, decisions, actions, and expectations begin moving in harmony with that state. The principle is simple. What you repeatedly accept as true becomes increasingly influential in the way you experience your life. Your outer circumstances can be viewed as a reflection of the inner state you consistently occupy. When you align yourself with the feeling of fulfillment, you stop giving all of your power to circumstances outside yourself. You become deliberate about the state from which you live. You are not powerless before every event. You have influence over the meaning you assign, the thoughts you repeat, and the assumptions you continue to carry. What you repeatedly accept affects what you repeatedly experience. What you persistently feel becomes part of the identity from which you act. Move your attention away from constantly wanting and toward the feeling of already possessing. Stop living entirely in the search and begin practicing the state of fulfillment. When you think and act from the assumption that your desire is possible and already present in your inner world, you begin making choices that support that reality. You no longer need to wait for external permission to feel abundant, confident, loved, successful, or secure. Nothing is withheld from the person who consistently chooses to live from the end they desire. The deeper secret of creating a different life is learning to occupy the emotional state of the person who already has what they seek. To live in the end means to accept inwardly that your desire is fulfilled, even while the physical evidence may still be catching up. This is not about pretending that circumstances don't exist. It is about refusing to let current circumstances become the only source of your inner identity. The world around you is capable of changing, and your thoughts, beliefs, expectations, and assumptions influence how you move through that changing world. You don't have to spend all your energy fighting against what currently exists, begging for a different future, or constantly asking when something will finally happen. Instead, practice the feeling of fulfillment now. Let your mind become familiar with the emotional experience of already being where you want to be. Allow that feeling to become natural, rather than something you visit for a few seconds and immediately abandon. Living in the end means experiencing your desire internally as accomplished. It goes deeper than repeating positive words without feeling. It is an inner acceptance that says, "This is possible for me. This belongs in my life. I can experience myself as the person who already possesses it." Give that assumption enough attention that it begins to feel familiar. Your mind responds strongly to the beliefs and emotions you repeatedly reinforce. When you consistently practice the feeling of having instead of constantly rehearsing the feeling of lacking, you begin to relate to your life differently. Most people remain trapped in reaction. They look at what is happening around them, decide what it means about their future, and then allow those conclusions to determine how they feel. They wait for evidence before giving themselves permission to believe. But when you require external proof before you allow yourself to feel confident, peaceful, successful, or abundant, circumstances become the authority over your inner world. This is one reason people struggle to create change. They spend so much time responding to the present that they never establish a clear inner direction for the future. The shift begins when you recognize that you can become intentional about the state you occupy, instead of allowing every circumstance to decide it for you. You are not required to remain a permanent reflection of yesterday's conditions. You can choose a new assumption and begin building your thoughts around it. Imagine that the thing you have been desiring is already part of your life. Close your eyes and enter that experience with all your senses. If you desire financial abundance, imagine the ease, stability, confidence, and freedom you associate with having your financial needs met. If you desire love, experience the warmth of companionship, trust, affection, and meaningful connection. If your desire is greater well-being, imagine waking with energy, feeling capable, peaceful, and grateful for your life. Don't merely observe the picture from a distance. Step inside it. Feel the atmosphere. Notice how you would think if it were already true. Notice how you would carry yourself. Notice what would no longer make you anxious because you already felt secure. This is more than ordinary daydreaming. It is practicing a new inner state. The moment you begin consistently identifying with the feeling of fulfillment, your behavior and perception begin organizing themselves around that identity. You start noticing possibilities you previously overlooked. You respond differently. You make different choices. You become less controlled by the old story. This is the power of changing what happens within you first. Your experience of reality is not separate from the way you think, feel, interpret, and respond. When your state changes, your relationship with the world changes with it. The outer world can then begin reflecting those internal changes through your choices and experiences. Hold steadily to the feeling of having what you desire, instead of repeatedly returning to the feeling that it is missing. Doubt can pull your attention back towards separation. The moment you repeatedly ask whether it will ever happen, you reinforce the identity of someone who is still waiting. When you live from fulfillment, your inner conversation becomes different. You aren't constantly asking, "When will I get it?" You are practicing, "How would I feel if I already knew it was mine?" There is a powerful difference between hoping and knowing. Hope can carry uncertainty. Inner certainty carries stability. When you occupy the state of fulfillment, you don't need to constantly demand evidence from the outside world. You allow yourself to remain committed to the assumption you have chosen. This is where faith becomes meaningful. Faith does not have to mean believing that something outside of you will suddenly rescue you. It can mean developing trust in your own ability to remain aligned with the life and identity you are building. It means holding your chosen direction even when circumstances have not yet caught up. Your old patterns may continue appearing for a while because they have been practiced for a long time. That does not mean your new direction is failing. It means consistency matters. A new assumption becomes stronger when you return to it repeatedly instead of abandoning it every time reality appears different. Persistence is not frantic effort. It is returning calmly to the state you have chosen. You don't need to force every circumstance into place. You need to remain clear about who you are becoming and what you are moving toward. Think of someone planting a seed in the soil. They don't uncover it every morning because they are afraid nothing is happening beneath the surface. They provide what is needed, leave the seed undisturbed, and allow the natural process to unfold. Your desires can be approached in the same spirit. Give your vision attention, give it belief, give it consistent inner acceptance. Then allow yourself to live your life without constantly digging up the seed to check whether it has grown. Trust the process while continuing to take practical steps toward what matters to you. The feeling of already having is not about escaping the present. It is about choosing the inner state from which you meet the present. When you repeatedly experience yourself as capable, worthy, loved, peaceful, successful, and abundant, you begin carrying those qualities into your decisions and actions. And as your inner world changes, the way you move through the outer world changes with it. That is the deeper practice of living in the end. Not desperately waiting for your life to become different, but beginning now to think, feel, and act from the identity of the person you are becoming. The moment you place a desire into your imagination and strengthen it with the genuine feeling that it is already yours, you begin giving that idea a place to live within you. The only thing that keeps pulling you away is repeatedly doubting it, questioning whether it can happen, or returning your attention to everything that tells you it is missing. Living in the end is ultimately a change in identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone endlessly trying to obtain something and begin seeing yourself as the person who already embodies the experience you desire. That means bringing your thoughts, feelings, choices, and behavior into harmony with that new identity. Ask yourself honestly, if this desire were already fulfilled, how would I think about myself? How would I speak? How would I respond to situations? How would I carry myself through the day? What decisions would feel natural to me? Then begin practicing those qualities now. Every moment gives you another opportunity to strengthen the assumption you have chosen. When an old fear or doubt appears, you don't need to wrestle with it or punish yourself for having it. Notice it, let it pass, and gently return your attention to the feeling of already possessing what you desire. The more often you practice this, the more familiar the state becomes. Think of it like developing strength through repetition. A muscle becomes stronger because you continue using it. In the same way, a new mental and emotional state becomes easier when you repeatedly return to it. Eventually, what once required conscious effort can begin to feel normal. Your identity changes and your decisions begin changing with it. Then action becomes much less forced. You don't have to constantly push yourself to figure everything out. You may naturally notice opportunities, conversations, ideas, and possibilities that fit the direction you have chosen. You begin moving with greater confidence because you are no longer operating entirely from the feeling that something is missing. The constant pressure, worry, and desperate striving can begin to soften, replaced by an inner sense of trust and stability. You realize that fulfillment does not have to wait for some distant future moment. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is understanding that you do not have to postpone your sense of worth until you achieve something. You don't have to chase approval, beg for love, or prove that you deserve success. Your worth is not something you have to earn. When you genuinely accept that, you begin living from fulfillment rather than spending your entire life running toward it. Your outer experience can then begin changing because you are approaching life from a different inner foundation. The world around you can be understood as a reflection of your dominant inner patterns. It reflects the beliefs, expectations, assumptions, and emotional states you repeatedly carry. Many people assume their circumstances are completely random, or that their entire experience is determined by forces outside their influence. But your consciousness plays an important role in how you interpret events, what you notice, how you respond, and what choices you continue making. If you want your life to move in a different direction, begin by examining the person you are being within it. External change often becomes easier when your internal state changes first. The thoughts you repeatedly entertain and the emotions you repeatedly practice can shape the way you experience your circumstances. If your attention constantly lives in fear, doubt, worry, or helplessness, you may begin seeing more evidence that supports those expectations. If you consistently cultivate gratitude, confidence, hope, and calmness, you may become more capable of recognizing possibilities and responding constructively when they appear. This isn't about pretending that every circumstance is perfect or that difficult events don't exist. It is about recognizing that the state you repeatedly occupy influences how you interact with the world. Think about someone who expects everything to go wrong. They may believe that life is unfair, Opportunities are limited, and good experiences rarely last. Because they carry those assumptions, they move through life defensively. They expect disappointment before anything has happened. They hesitate because they are afraid of failure. They notice obstacles quickly because their attention has been trained to search for them. And when something positive finally appears, they may question it, minimize it, or assume it will disappear. Their expectation of difficulty can become a pattern that continually reinforces itself. Now imagine someone approaching life from a completely different assumption. They believe that opportunities exist, that challenges can teach them something, and that good outcomes are possible. They move through the world with greater openness and confidence. When difficulties arise, they don't automatically interpret them as proof that everything is against them. They look for options. They remain willing to try. Because they expect possibilities, they may notice opportunities that someone focused entirely on danger would overlook. They don't need to pretend that everything will always be easy. Their difference is that their dominant expectation allows them to respond rather than panic. Both people can live in the same city, encounter similar challenges, and face many of the same circumstances while experiencing life in very different ways. The difference is not necessarily luck, intelligence, or privilege alone. Their inner assumptions influence what they notice, how they interpret events, and what actions they take next. Each person is interacting with life from the inside outward, whether they recognize it or not. The external world can become an echo of the internal patterns that guide your attention and behavior. If you want to change what appears in the mirror, you don't stand there arguing with the reflection. You change the source of the reflection. Yet many people spend years trying to transform their lives exclusively from the outside. They attempt to control circumstances, force other people to behave differently, or manipulate outcomes while keeping the same beliefs and emotional patterns underneath. It's like trying to change your reflection by reaching toward the mirror and moving the image with your hands. The reflection follows the source. Meaningful change often begins when you change the internal state from which you approach the external world. When you shift your assumptions, your perception changes. When your perception changes, your choices can change. And when your choices change consistently, your circumstances can begin changing as well. If you feel trapped in a situation you don't want, don't immediately use that situation as proof that your future is permanently limited. Turn inward and ask yourself what assumptions might be influencing the way you experience it. If you are constantly worried about money, examine the story you have learned to tell yourself about wealth. Do you automatically believe that money is impossible to earn, that there is never enough, or that financial security is reserved for other people? If your relationships repeatedly become painful or unstable, examine what you expect from connection. Do you assume people will eventually leave? Do you expect betrayal? Do you believe love always requires struggle, or that you are somehow difficult to love? These questions are not about blaming yourself for every circumstance. They are about becoming aware of the beliefs that may be guiding your reactions and decisions. Once you can see those assumptions clearly, you can begin choosing different ones. You don't have to spend every moment trying to control the external world. Begin by changing the state from which you meet it. Change the story you repeatedly tell yourself. Change the identity you practice. Change what you consistently expect from yourself and from life. When the inner state changes, your relationship with the outer world changes with it, and that is where a different experience can begin. As soon as you accept a different belief as true, the reflection you see in your life begins moving in a new direction. The old image may not disappear immediately, just as something already in motion needs time before it can completely change course. But when you remain consistent with the new assumption, your thoughts, choices, and experiences gradually begin reflecting it. This requires patience and trust because the outside world may not provide instant evidence. The mirror does not always change the second you change your mind, and this is exactly where many people lose their focus. They begin thinking differently. They start imagining a better experience, but when nothing seems to happen right away, they return to the familiar patterns of fear, doubt, and disappointment. It is like planting something in the ground and constantly disturbing the soil because you are impatient to see the result. You cannot give something time to grow while repeatedly pulling it apart to check whether it is working. Inner change needs consistency. Your external circumstances may take time to reflect your new state, but continuing in the new direction gives that state a chance to influence the way you think, act, and respond. Your emotions can also tell you a great deal about the state you are occupying. When you feel overwhelmed, fearful, frustrated, or deeply anxious, don't simply push those emotions away. Let them show you where your attention has gone. Ask yourself, what am I believing right now that is creating this reaction? Maybe you are assuming that everything will go wrong. Maybe you are expecting rejection. Maybe you have returned to the belief that what you want is impossible or far away. Once you recognize the assumption underneath the emotion, you can consciously choose a more supportive one. Instead of repeatedly rehearsing the absence of what you desire, gently return your attention to the feeling of fulfillment. Make that feeling familiar. Let it become the inner place you return to. When you begin changing your internal world, you don't need to spend all your energy trying to force the external world into submission. Your role is to remain connected to the state you have chosen while continuing to live your actual life with awareness and intention. The outer circumstances can change through countless pathways you may not be able to predict in advance. A new person may cross your path. An unexpected opportunity may appear. An idea may lead to an action you never considered before. A situation that seemed completely closed may gradually open in a different way. You don't have to know every step before you begin. Think of it like tuning a radio. If the receiver is set to one station, you hear the broadcast associated with that frequency. If you want to hear something different, you change the setting. The other station did not suddenly appear because you turned the dial. It was already available. You simply changed what you were receiving. In a similar way, the life you desire can first exist as a possibility that you become increasingly capable of recognizing and moving toward. The practice is to align your inner identity with the experience you want, rather than constantly rehearsing the identity of someone who does not have it. This is why imagination becomes so useful. When you repeatedly imagine yourself experiencing the fulfilled desire, you give your mind a chance to become familiar with that possibility. When you feel the emotions associated with it, you strengthen the identity connected to it. You begin tuning your attention toward the kind of experiences you want to notice and create. You become more prepared to recognize opportunities that fit that direction. There is no need to spend your life fighting every circumstance. Start with the part you can actually influence: your thoughts, your interpretations, your expectations, and the actions that follow them. Your inner state affects the way you approach the world, and the way you approach the world affects what you do with the opportunities in front of you. When you consistently hold a feeling of confidence, possibility, and fulfillment, you are more likely to act from those qualities. Chasing is different. Chasing usually begins with the assumption that something is missing. When you constantly pursue something from desperation, the underlying message is, I don't have this yet. It is somewhere outside me. I need it before I can finally feel complete. That mindset keeps your attention fixed on absence. The more intensely you focus on what is missing, the more your mind becomes trained to search for evidence of that missing thing. Instead of constantly chasing, practice embodying the qualities associated with the life you desire. Think of a magnet. A magnet does not run around searching for every piece of metal. It simply possesses a quality that allows attraction to occur. In the same way, you don't have to organize your entire existence around desperately pursuing success, connection, confidence, or abundance. You can begin developing the identity and habits that naturally support those experiences. Assume the emotional position of someone who believes they are capable, worthy, and prepared to receive good things. Let your decisions reflect that identity. Let your inner conversations support it. Let your actions come from confidence rather than panic. Imagine someone who wants greater financial security. If their entire mental conversation is about how little they have, how impossible money feels, and how desperately they need a breakthrough, then every decision may be colored by fear and scarcity. They are constantly operating from the identity of someone who is behind and struggling. But someone developing an abundant mindset approaches money differently. They can appreciate what they have, while also becoming more capable, responsible, and open to opportunities. They don't need to pretend that financial challenges don't exist. They simply refuse to let those challenges define their entire identity. Their thoughts become more constructive. Their actions become more deliberate. They begin looking for ways to learn, improve, save, create, or earn. The same principle can be applied to relationships. Someone who desperately seeks approval from others may enter every interaction wondering whether they are enough. They may constantly look for reassurance and interpret every small change as a sign of rejection. Their attention is focused on obtaining love because they believe something inside them is missing. But a person who develops a stronger sense of self-worth approaches relationships from a different foundation.